Okay, the ice pun. No, just joking. Yes. No, basically, yes, it would be marketed towards teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
It's in high school. You can't market that towards adults. You really can't. Unless you're doing a stoner comedy, and that's a different thing. Completely different market. You can't really, I don't think you can really market a high school drama to adults. And high school is so logical with Spider-Man. I think we can agree that high school is the logical path.
It is. Why don't you think adults would watch the show?
No, I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying you can't market it towards adults.
Okay.
I'm not saying adults will not watch the show. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you cannot focus your attention on trying to please the adults. You have to focus your attention on who your primary audience will be. You focus on who your primary audience is, and you make a good story so everybody can watch it.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah. Yes. But your primary audience would probably be high school students.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of ABC Family TV shows, and when they're written well, they appeal to me.
When they're not, you're like, this is not what I was like at all in high school. Or anyone that I knew.
Well, I don't know, because I wasn't like anything I watch on it, because like a lot of high school dramas are about people getting pregnant and drugs.
I never gave birth during high school as a male. I cannot relate to these people.
I didn't know anybody that got pregnant in high school.
I know, I was just kidding.
I'm just saying that I was the geek. I was the nerd. And not to say that those characters don't exist, but they have not done a TV show on Magic the Gathering yet. A high school show based around Magic the Gathering yet.
I think the problem with a lot of the teen shows is, like, they portray teenagers as kind of like one-dimensional people, like they're one emotion all the time. Like if they're a goth kid, they're depressed all the time. If they're a cheerleader, they're peppy all the time. If they're a jock, they're a douchebag all the time. Like there's no full range of emotions with these kind of teenagers, and they present them as archetypes. So I think if you're going to do a good Spider-Man show, you definitely need three-dimensional characters, because that's what makes the drama of his story so good. The
first comic book idea I ever came up with, I think I addressed this. Tell me if you agree with this.
Okay.
Basically, and obviously these are just rough ideas. I haven't really finished fleshing out the characters yet. But one of the main, like basically the two main characters, are essentially, one was actually a gothic jock. He's actually both.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and like people are like, oh, that's so unrealistic. You can't be a goth and a jock. And I said, why not?
Why? Yeah, I don't know. I've never met one, but there probably is one out there.
Well, why can't the way you dress and the way you act, why does that have to influence the hobbies that you do?
Right. And that's kind of a bigger societal kind of discussion as to why people conform to archetypes and stereotypes and stuff.
It's actually another thing that my friend is talking about is, I don't know how you were in high school because you just graduated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I graduated last year.
Yeah. I graduated like 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated much, much longer ago than you. 7 years difference.
Yeah.
You weren't even in high school. I don't even think you were. Yeah, you weren't even you were not in high school when I was a senior. You might have been in junior high. But the thing is that when I was in high school, and a friend of mine that's about my same age also went through this, we were made fun of for playing video games. we were told that they were stupid, that they're for kids, that you're in high school, why you're still playing video games.
Mm-hmm.
And now the jocks and the popular people play video games, and I've actually had somebody like that, somebody who just started playing video games, come up to me and tell me, you play video games because it's popular, and that's the only reason you do it. The only reason you're playing that game is because I'm playing it. And I think that's so funny, because it's like I was doing this when you were making fun of me.
Yeah, I have that same kind of thing with all my interests. Like, it wasn't, like, I definitely had the things where people made fun of me in elementary school and middle school, and that's probably around the time you were in high school, when video games, comic books, all the kind of geeky stuff that I was into was looked at as stupid and for kids, and I should outgrow it, just like you said. And, you know, the cool thing was to play football, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So when I got to high school, it was kind of weird, because that's when all the geeky stuff started to become widely accepted by people. So I walk into, like, high school the first day, and I see people doing, like, Ninja Turtle handshakes in the hallway. I'm like, these are the same kids that used to, like, make fun of me for wearing Ninja Turtle t-shirts to elementary school. What's going on here? Well,
I have actually a story related to that. A friend that basically was a little younger than me, but I think he started high school when I was a senior or a junior, somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, we went to the same school years and years ago, and we were both into Pokemon. He's the one that got me into Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
And so in class, I'm asking him, did you get the new Pokemon game? And he's like, no, of course not. It's dumb. It's idiotic. I hate it. Right after class, he comes up to me when nobody's around. He says, yeah, I did. Don't tell anybody. And it's funny, because he wanted to be popular. He wanted to be with the in crowd. I didn't care.
Yeah, same with me. I didn't give a flying F word what people thought about me and my interests.
Like, one thing that actually I regret is that people used to call me Yoda when I was in high school, and I used to got mad at them for calling me that. And then I thought about it. They're telling me I'm wise and powerful, and I'm getting mad about that.
And you can do flips at people.
Well, I don't know at the time if he could do flips. I was able to do flips.
That's true.
Still, wise and powerful. Like, I mean, yes, he was trying to say I'm short and ugly, but I think.
Yeah,
but hey,
I don't know.
Like, he was just making fun of me because I was a Star Wars fan. I was an open Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And I don't regret being an open Star Wars fan, because Star Wars is awesome.
Right on, man.
And guess what? It's not around anymore, so... Oh, wait, yeah, it is still around. It's actually really funny, because Star Wars actually became popular after the movies. You didn't know that? Like the popularity it has now happened after the films.
Really?
Yes. Like, the films got people into it, but after the films ended, it did what most things did, and it funneled out, and then they started making comic books in different mediums, and then it exploded into what it is today.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, it was not obscure. It was not like a cult hit or anything like that. It was popular. It was a good selling movie, but it was nowhere near as popular as it is today. Like,
I was under the impression when the first one, A New Hope, came out, it was a cultural phenomenon. But no, I don't know. I wasn't around back then.
It's not on the level that most people think it was. The other mediums really, like, solidified it what it was. Because, like, yes, the movies were popular in their heyday, but once they came out, it did what most things does, and it funneled out. Once that last movie came out, it really didn't have momentum to continue, and the other mediums got it its momentum.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, that's why I think it has a chance of killing World of Warcraft, because it has a name.
Yeah.
And if nothing more, the Warcraft Star Wars fans are going to play the beta, and I think they might switch over.
Yeah, they might, but I don't know. So
I mean, if you were still playing World of Warcraft and Star Wars came out, would you think about switching over?
Yeah, I definitely would. But
give me 1 minute. Okay, back and talking about the Spider-Man TV show here, and let's talk about the villains you think would work in a TV show. We haven't really tackled who you think could work and who you think they should never try in a million years. I'm gonna throw out there, Toxin will never be in the TV show.
Was anyone demanding Toxin?
I'm making a joke.
Oh, okay.
You just heard all the talk. You just heard every single subscriber I have that is a Toxin fanboy is now gonna unsubscribe, man.
Well, it's not that like I have like hatred for the Toxin character.
I was joking with you.
Yeah.
I'm just no. I don't think they'll do Hobgoblin.
I don't think they will either, mainly because Green Goblin's going to be their first priority if they're going to do a Goblin villain, so...
They're going to do a Goblin villain.
Yeah, obviously, it's Spider-Man, so...
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to, at one point or another.
How many Goblin... Like, I think they might have more Goblins than they do symbiotes.
It's... I don't think so. I think, like... In terms of, like, symbiotes that have existed over the years, there's tons more. But, like, symbiotes that exist now compared to goblins that exist now, I'm not really sure. But there's definitely...
Turn it off if you don't want it! My dad.
There's definitely been more symbiotes. But, the villains that I think might work, I think Electro or... even Mysterio would work pretty well, because with Mysterio, you can pretty much do anything you want.
Yeah, you definitely could. It depends on how you do Electro.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shocker would be a more logical choice.
Yeah, Shocker could work.
They would do Venom. No matter how hard it would be to do Venom, Venom's going to be in the TV scene.
Yeah, that's true, because he's really popular.
But I think you could do Venom because you just don't do the symbiote thing. You don't make it look like a symbiote. You just make it look like a suit. And you do the symbiote things minimalistic.
What do you mean you make it look like a suit, like it's something he puts on over his body?
No. You basically just make it a suit. You don't make it like you know how a lot of times you'll see the symbiote tentacles are coming out and a lot of things.
Oh yeah. You wouldn't do that kind of stuff.
That stuff. You would have to do that stuff with Carnage, but that's why you use him for a season finale, and you basically you use a little bit of him in the season finale,
yeah.
Also, I think the fact that you can I think the whole idea of Eddie Brock and Venom being dual characters, and actually Eddie Brock being a character helps, because a lot of his villains aren't actual characters other than they're a villain.
Yeah, a lot of them are just kind of gimmicks.
Well,
conceptually, but there's been comics over the years where they've been fleshed out effectively, so they definitely be able to do that in the show.
What I mean like that is that when you have Rhino, you don't have his alter ego.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like they didn't have any character to it.
No. I mean, basically, basically, like, with Eddie Brock, he's a character.
Yeah.
You can tell stories. You can tell an entire episode where you don't even have Venom, but you only have Eddie Brock. Same thing with Kirk Connors. Same thing with Norman Osborn. And I think that helps because you can build those characters. Those are who you'd use for season-wide arcs. Maybe not Kirk Connors, but you use him for a time before he becomes the Lizard.
And the specific example you used as of Rhino, I don't think I definitely agree with you that he couldn't support a full season arc, but his alter ego is kind of a character. Like there's stuff they've done in the comics, like with his wife and him struggling with the Rhino persona. Like there's actually like him thinking if it's immoral or not that he's putting on this suit and like doing mercenary work, or if that's what he needs to do to support his family. You know, I mean they've done some stuff, but classically he's not portrayed as like in the Stan Lee era, which is what most people look to when they do Spider-Man adaptations. That's not. I think the Rhino thing with his wife is more of a modern thing, but I don't know what kind of route they would do in terms of adapting stuff for the show.
Also, I'm familiar with most of this stuff from other mediums other than the comics, so a lot of people might say, like, that's one reason I wanted you here. So if I say something dumb, you're here to tell me if I'm wrong. Which I don't mind because I don't know this stuff off the top of my head.
Oh, no, I don't mean to be a dick about it. I was just...
Oh, no, I'm not trying to make... you're not a dick. I mean...
Oh, okay. I felt bad. I thought you felt like I was...
No. I'm making it very clear that that one reason I'm happy you're here doing this chat with me is simply that I am not the biggest reader of Spider-Man. I'm a fan of Spider-Man. I do call myself a fan. He is one of my favorite superheroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
And it's relatable. It is relatable. And that's another thing we do have to talk about. I completely forgot about it. Spider-Man being relatable.
Yeah.
A lot of superheroes are not relatable. Batman, for instance. He's not supposed to be relatable.
That's not how his character was specifically designed from the ground up, but I think you can relate to him in some ways.
You can, but he's one of the harder characters to relate to because you can relate to him on some levels, but you can't really relate to him because he's a billionaire. His parents died, so now he thinks he thinks he must do this thing. He's, in some interpretations, Batman is as insane as the Joker. He just uses his insanity differently. Very much like how Eddie Brock and Spider-Man are kind of like people that took the different paths. I think the Joker and Batman are very similar to that.
Yeah, in my experience with the whole relatability thing, in terms of how it differs from company to company when you talk about the big two, is superficially you can look at a Marvel character and see what you find relatable about them. What they are relatable for, at least superficially, is very apparent. You look at Spider-Man, he's the everyman, he has problems, all that kind of stuff. Daredevil, he's very self-destructive, he does all this stuff. Tony Stark, he's a drunk, he has all those kind of problems. Any of the Marvel characters you can look at, they're built to have soap opera kind of stories told with them in that respect. The DC characters, you have to look a little bit deeper. Batman, his story is all about coming to terms with a mistake you made and getting retribution for it. Some people relate to Batman because he works in complete solitude. He likes to be alone. Superman, kind of the same thing. There's a solitude to that character. Aquaman is all about finding his place in the world. You can look, if you know the DC characters well enough, it's easy to relate to them. If you read and know the characters well. Marvel, it's much easier to relate to the characters superficially and just going in. If you just pick up an issue of Spider-Man, you can say, okay, this is what I like about this character, this is what I relate about him. The DC characters, you have to know a little bit better. So that's where I think making an adaptation of this kind of thing, specifically Spider-Man, would be very effective in getting people to relate to him in a wide audience sense of teenagers of today, because that's kind of what he was in the 60s. And if you just tweak some of the situations to be updated to a modern sense, I mean, you have relatability right there, because a lot of the stuff that people go through as teenagers hasn't changed since the beginning of time. You have to deal with how your body changes, the feelings you have about the opposite sex, all of that kind of stuff. All that happened in Peter Parker's life, and he deals with it in the Stan Lee run. So just take that stuff and tweak it, and you've got a pretty good, relatable teen show.
And I completely agree with you. And I'm not saying that these other characters aren't relatable. I'm just saying that like yet again, Captain Logan in his Super Rewind of Iron Man basically said, out of all the Marvel characters, I think that Iron Man should be the less relatable, but they made him so relatable because they did human things about him. They made him very human.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that if you make these characters human, they're easy to relate to, and that's what I think I think why Tim Burton's Batman is so criticized these days, because you don't relate to Batman. He's virtually unrelatable in that movie because you don't know who he is. You know nothing about that character.
Right, exactly.
You can relate to the Joker a lot more. The Joker is a centralized character. Where the new film, you can't relate to the Joker because you're not supposed to. You get to see the Joker enough to know who he is, but you don't get to see him enough to really relate to him, but you're not supposed to. That's not the character. You're supposed to relate to Batman and how Batman is dealing with this character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think the older movies failed on, is they made the villains more of a focus than Batman. And I want my total character to be more fleshed out than his villains. I'm sorry to say. I mean, I want my villains to be fleshed out, but I want my hero to be more fleshed out.
Yeah, that's kind of the weird thing about Batman, is a lot of people like the villains more than they like the Batman character himself, which is kind of a weird thing that he has going on with him. I've just noticed, like, there's a lot of people that they won't pick up a Batman story just because it's Batman. They need to know what villain's in it, and then they'll pick it up, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm kind of in a really, really rut when it comes to Batman comics.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, my favorite Batman villain is never featured in a comic.
Catwoman is your favorite, isn't it? Yes.
She's never featured as the main villain. Like, you can never pick up a story and go, oh, that's Catwoman's definitive comic. It doesn't exist. She is featured in comics, but she's never featured as the main villain.
Well, I don't know, like, I myself, like, my personal opinion, I wouldn't really classify her as a villain, so, per se, so. There's a lot of stories that are great Catwoman stories, but not ones where she's, like, doing evil things, because she's not really evil.
Well, let me clarify. I understand that about the character. I'm just saying, as a Catwoman fan, it's harder for me to find stories because, like, I can't just go, oh, that's the... Well, like, the beautiful thing about Catwoman is she has her own titles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beautiful thing about that character, is that even though she might not be heavily featured as a main character in a lot of Batman stories, well, she gets her own stories where they can more develop the character and all that, where a Joker comic probably wouldn't work as well.
Right, yeah, that would... Joker's one of those characters where you don't really want to get into his head. He's kind of just like the physical embodiment of random violence and basically what killed Bruce Wayne's parents. So you don't really need to understand him.
Well,
and get in his head.
Like, I'm one of those people that I think I like more. I like my stuff to be developed. But I'll completely agree with Batman villains that when you develop the Joker, you make him less good.
Yeah, he's one of those weird exceptions to, because that's what I love in stories, is the characters, and Joker's one of those weird exceptions where it's just like, I don't need to know anything about him, I just want to see how he plays off the other characters.
Yes,
and how they deal with him. Because he's kind of like just a force of nature more than anything else. That's extremely entertaining.
And he really does play off Batman good because Batman uses logic and science and criminology to solve problems, and he can't use that on the Joker. Because the Joker will purposely do something completely like the Joker. I think I've actually read stories where the Joker will do something that actually hurts his plan, so Batman is off guard, so he can win in the end.
Yeah, and it's the reason they work so well together too is it's a battle of opposing ideals. Batman's kind of like represents justice and order, and he's trying to bring order to a city that's corrupted and all that stuff. And Joker is the physical embodiment of complete anarchy and destruction. So it's those two classic forces of good and evil coming together and fighting each other.
And basically, Catwoman, on the other hand, is pretty much it's very similar to Batman, but that she has different moral sets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like what we were talking about before, like Eddie Brock and Spider-Man. Eddie Brock is a lot of the time portrayed as kind of like a vigilante guy, where he's willing to cross the line and kill criminals, where Spider-Man isn't. And Catwoman's, she doesn't, it's not the question of does she kill people, it's that she's willing to go to cross the line that Batman won't cross. And she's willing to do good things, but, you know what I'm trying to say.
Well, people think I'm crazy when I say this, but I remember back when I really got into Catwoman that she does have the same rule as Batman, that she does not kill. She will not kill anybody. And that's one thing I came fond with her, is that she is a criminal who does not kill. And I don't know if I made this up in my head, but I remember that Catwoman will not kill. The only person she ever does anything dramatic to is Batman, because she knows Batman can save himself. Like, she'll throw Batman off the rooftop, but she won't throw a security guard off the rooftop.
Yeah, I don't know that for sure, because I'm not the biggest Batman guy, but from what I've read, that's what she seems like. But anyway, we kind of got off topic again. Yes, we did. Well, you're getting a lot in this video.
Yes, the person who recommended this is getting a lot of different topics here.
Yeah, definitely. So what were we talking about before? The villains that we think would work well in this show.
Well, we covered a bunch of them. Who did we not cover? Are there any obscure villains you want to see?
Let's see. I think you could, a Tinkerer would, the Tinkerer would be a villain you could do pretty well on a low budget. He's basically just a guy that builds, like, machines and stuff. Dr. Octopus, do you think they'd be able to do him on a budget?
Yes, but I think, yet again, he's one of those less is more characters. I think he's more of a character that you see in the background, and that basically I think you have to develop his character, because I don't think you could do the Octopus so much, a lot, to where you have to develop him for a little while. Maybe connect him to a larger villain, like the Kingpin.
Yeah, I'd like to see if they were to do an adaptation of Spider-Man, another one, like in live action and stuff. I'd like to see more of like the planning mastermind Dr. Octopus, the guy that's planned for every eventuality, that's extremely intelligent in the TV show, more than the sympathetic Dr. Octopus that was in Spider-Man 2. As much as I love that movie, I'd just like to see a different version of Octopus, just to get some variety, get different versions of the character in other mediums,
Well, I think that, would you be okay with in Season 1, hypothetically Season 1, that essentially he's the one creating these villains for some master plan that's revealed at the end of the season?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that, as long as it was done well, obviously.
And I think with Doc Ock, Kingpin, Norman Osborn, you can actually do kind of like a turf war. They're each trying to best the other one, and a lot of the villains come out that basically they have a rivalry going.
Yeah, that's basically what they did in the Spectacular Spider-Man. Octopus wasn't one of the major players in the crime ring, but it was Norman Osborn against Tombstone in the crime battles over New York. So
later on, they did bring in they did actually bring in the master planner, which
yeah.
Which I'm not going to spoil who the master planner is for anybody who's not seen that TV show. Go watch it if you have not seen it, because why are you watching this video if you've not seen that TV show?
Yeah, it's only the best Spider-Man cartoon ever, in my opinion. But
I don't know. Like, the 90s cartoon still holds up till today. I mean,
I love the 90s series, but I think Spectacular is a little bit better. But anyway, let's I had something I was going to say. Oh, another villain that I just thought of, which you'd be able to do on a budget, is the Enforcers. You could do the Enforcers.
Yes. Which I know nothing about them other than
one of them's big and strong, one of them hops around, and one of them lassos stuff. That's basically all you need to know.
Okay. And also, I take it that the one that lassos things is not Shocker.
Oh no, they're not like that in the comics. They're completely different characters. They just did that in the cartoon.
Okay, I'm just making that clarified. That I know of them, and I know that I know that in one of their issues, the backstory J.
Jonah Jameson?
Yeah, his backstory was actually in one of the Enforcers comics. Why he hates masked vigilantes, which we've not talked about him. He has to be in the TV show, and they have to do him right.
Yeah, I think he's an essential part of the Spider-Man cast. And, another villain I just thought of, and then we can move on, that I think you'd be able to do on a budget is Kraven. We didn't mention him.
Kraven the Hunter? Yes, definitely. How about his wife?
His wife? Maybe.
What would they do with his wife? Like, would she be mentioned? Would she be there? Like, I'm saying that the 90s TV show completely altered her.
Kind of. I mean, his wife in the comics recently, I'm not really familiar because I haven't read any of the early 90s stuff yet, because I'm reading through the years, and I'm up to like the early 70s now. But I don't remember if Calypso and Kraven were ever like together. They might have been at one point, but his wife that was recently in the comics, when he came back from the dead in the Gauntlet, it was a completely different character. So,
okay. Because I do know that in the 90s cartoon they made her into a scientist.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that like that shows how you can adapt things well, how you can change entire characters, but do it well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because
a lot of the changes they made in Spectacular Spider-Man to some of the characters I liked better than what was done in the original comics. So, Gwen Stacy, for example, I love the Spectacular Spider-Man version of Gwen Stacy a little bit, and I like her almost a little bit better than the one that was in the comics.
Is she a science nerd in the comics?
No, she's just kind of a chick.
So they made her deeper?
Well, she's still a good character. Like, she's a strong woman and all that stuff. But she's just kind of like a regular girl. I don't know. Like, I like the angle that they took on her in Spectacular Spider-Man a lot. Like,
and it seems like the new movie is actually copying that a little bit.
Yeah, to some extent, they're making her the scientist and stuff, which will be cool. I hope they use that take because I like it a lot.
Yeah, we just have to see what they do. Like, I have all the faith in the world in that movie. Like, other than we know for a fact Dark Knight will be one of the greatest films of next year, I'm thinking Spider-Man is up there too.
I hope so.
Yes, like, Avengers is still on the fence. I don't know. Like, I want it to be good, but it's got one thing going against it that nobody ever mentions.
What?
First of all, is the director can't do his job.
What do you mean?
Joss Whedon cannot do his take on any of these characters. He has to use existing takes on all these characters for the most part. Which has got to be hard.
Well, I mean...
he has to direct Tony Stark as he was directed in Iron Man. Like, he can't put his input into it that much. Like, he can do a few things, but... And, like...
You ever... Oh, sorry.
Oh, what were you saying?
I was going to say, you ever read his run on Astonishing X-Men?
No, I've not read a lot of his anything. I watch TV shows.
Well, his run on Astonishing X-Men is regarded, rightly so, as one of the best X-Men runs of all time.
Oh, I'm like, I heard that he's one of the greatest people. Like, he got that because he can write ensemble casts.
He can what?
He can write ensemble casts. He can write big casts.
Yeah, but like, my point was that he had to use... Obviously, with those characters,
okay,
the takes from years and years and years and years and years of X-Men comics, and he pulled from a lot of different places, and he effectively told his own story with other people's characters. You know what I mean?
And that's one thing that we should touch about right now is that Avengers is showing that they're actually using a comic book writer to write a comic book movie, but he also has proven that he has the ability to write cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that Spider-Man TV show should do if they ever do one, is actually get people who have a take in both, who actually understand how both mediums work and understand how to merge them together, because you can do it correctly if you know what you're doing, but they are different. But they are different.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'd love to see maybe if Brian Michael Bendis got on board for the writing of a live-action Spider-Man TV show, because his run on Ultimate is one of my favorite Spider-Man runs, and he definitely gets the teenage drama stuff. So, and I think, I'm not sure if he's worked on television previous to the new cartoon they're doing, but I know he's going to be involved in some capacity with the new Powers TV show that is being adapted from his comics. So if they were to get him involved with a Spider-Man show somehow, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, like, and that's where you get, like, and that's where you do co-directing, like basically you get the, you basically get the creators of the show, or the people that are heading the show, the executive producers. I think you take one that's got a comic book background and one that's got a TV show background, and you let them work together and figure things out together. Because most TV shows, I don't know if you know, usually have co-creators and usually have multiple executive producers. And executive producers are usually the hands-in guys. They're usually the people doing the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, and I believe that the head of Marvel Television is Jeff Loeb right now, and he's worked on various TV shows. He's worked on Heroes.
Jeff Loeb, is he as bad as blows himself up dude says?
He's written some good stuff, and he's written some really bad stuff. Basically, he did really good work, and then his son passed away, and ever since then, his work hasn't really been as good.
So, if he had any capacity to do this, you would want him in more of an executive role, and less of.
That's what I'm saying. His role would be, because he's the head of Marvel Television, and his experience with both mediums would definitely help out. I think he's directly involved, a producer or something, on the new Avengers cartoon the Mightiest Heroes, and that show is fantastic. So
yeah, so we agree that it is fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. I thought it was just me.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, no, I actually really like that. I really like that cartoon, and actually, I was talking to one of my comic book friends about like how they did Captain America, and how it's kind of funny how Captain America was beating up the entire Avengers, and he was like, "Oh, that's exactly what they did in the comic books." That when he first came in, he beat up every single Avengers, and I think like, I think the idea... Like, the one thing I hate about characters like him and Superman are they play them dumb sometimes.
Superman and Cap?
Yeah.
What do you mean by playing them dumb?
Superman more than Cap. But I see a lot of stories where Superman is being played as a moron. He's just the brute strong... He's like the Hulk in many ways. Green Hulk. That he's basically just a
70s classic Hulk smash, run around from the military Hulk. That's who you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Superman is played like that a lot, and he's a highly intelligent person. He's a college grad. He's not a genius. He's not Batman, but he's extremely intelligent. He's not a moron. And I see a lot of times where he's played as a moron.
Yeah, I've seen that before too, and I really don't like when Superman's characterized that way. Specifically in I like The Dark Knight Returns, but I don't really like how Superman's characterized in that book.
Yeah, and I remember they do that sometimes with Cap. They don't emphasize that he's intelligent, that he's not just strong and endurance. He's actually intelligent, and he can actually think through things and strategize.
Right, like Mark Millar's method of writing him in Civil War. Cap hears something he doesn't like, and then just smashes everyone and steals a plane, and then he's like, "I'm going to fight everything." That's not what he would do.
Yes. Isn't he one of the more logical characters in there?
He's kind of like the reasonable old grandpa for all of them. He's the guy everyone goes to for advice. So Cap, I need some advice, and he's like, all right.
That's the one thing that I think the Ultimate Avengers has missed out on, is that Iron Man is still the leader, and for a while I thought they were going with the story that Iron Man can't lead. That's the whole point, and that when Cap came in, he was going to be the leader.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping, because Cap must lead the Avengers.
Well, Iron Man isn't a leader, at least from what I've always understood him as. He's not really a leader. He's more of your genius. He's more of the guy. He's more of the guy that when Cap needs to figure out how to solve a problem, he comes and he asks him, "Hey, I don't understand this scientific thing. How do we do this?" He more gets advice from Iron Man to figure out problems, and things like that.
Yeah, Iron Man does machines. That's basically what we're saying.
Yes, Iron Man is smarter than Cap. It's definitely smarter, but
smarter in a different way than Cap.
Well, he is inherently smarter than that character, because Cap is not a genius. Cap is highly intelligent, but he's not a genius.
Yeah, and there's definitely different fields of intelligence too.
Yes,
Iron Man is a technical genius. He can build things. He uses his knowledge to create. Captain America is a strategic genius on the battlefield. He knows war. That's his shtick.
And Batman is a genius in everything.
Because Batman wins everything.
Yes, it's like why do you need the Justice League? Why do they exist? You could just have the Batman.
The League of Batman.
Yes. Yes. They should make
Maybe that was the point of Batman Incorporated. Why didn't you let Grant Morrison finish DC? Come on.
No, but you should make that into a comic. The League of Batman, where Batman is his own league. Like you like a comic where like basically like the league's screwing up and he says, "Screw this, I'm gonna make my own league." And instead of having anybody else on the league, he does it all by himself and like he's stopping like the Justice League keeps coming to crimes, and by the time they get there, Batman's already taken care of it.
It's like the Flash gets there, like Darkseid's already defeated. What defeated you? Darkseid's last words, Batman.
It would be a silly comic, but I think people would read it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then all the people on the internet that fight about who, like, if Batman would win against this person in a fight, would just cite that Batman can pretty much do anything. So argument ended.
Yes, but he is, but that's the problem with the character is that he can't do everything and he shouldn't be like that.
Well, it really depends on who's writing him too, you know, like.
But that's why the whole thing that basically he's just a vigilante. First of all, is he has superpowers. I don't care what you say. I don't care what his superpower is. If it's awesomeness, okay, let's just call his superpower awesomeness. He has that power.
His power is being an all-around, like, physically and detective skills and, like, criminology-wise, like, perfect man. Like, he has some flaws, but physically he's the perfect man, and that's, like, he's achieved perfection physically to the point of where you probably wouldn't be able to do that in a lifetime as a real person.
Well, like basically my comic book guy, we're talking about Batman. We were talking about the realism of Batman, and basically he had a guy who actually trained in martial arts. And this guy was in his 50s, and he had asked, "Have you mastered your craft?" And he's like, "No, I'm nowhere near a master in my form of martial arts." And he's in his 50s, and he's been doing it since he was young.
Mm-hmm.
Batman's 35, and he's mastered every form of martial arts that exists.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, if you say that's one of my pet peeves is when people say Batman's realistic. No, Batman, like, The Dark Knight is not realistic. It's the most realistic version of Batman, but it's not realistic.
Yeah, I mean,
Batman is inherently an unrealistic character, but that's fine. That's his character. And I also say, and I've also stated to people that Superman is more realistic than Batman. And oh my God, people will bitch me out for saying that. How can you say that? But they don't understand what I'm saying. Obviously, an alien is less realistic than a man, but the plausibility of Superman is plausible. An alien from another planet being able to do what Superman does is plausible.
Mm-hmm.
Batman is not plausible. I don't care what you say. Batman is unplausible in every way.
Yeah.
Superman could hypothetically exist if there was a planet like that. If the rules exist, he could exist. If some kid's parents got gunned down and he was dedicated to becoming Batman, he couldn't.
Yeah, that's true.
And people don't understand when I say that obviously, yes, a human, but yes, yet again, we've gotten off topic. What's the next topic on our Spider-Man checklist here? We talked about villains. We talked about plot.
Supporting cast.